This is the piece called Sailor's Hornpipe by Pauline Hall, which is in Piano Time Book 1. There we are. So, this is a fun piece. I think it's great fun to play, very satisfying once you can do it. Quite tricky at first. There's some crossing over. Left hand crosses over the right, then the right hand crosses over the left. But actually that's not the hardest part. I don't think it is anyway. I think the hardest part is in the second line. So I'm just going to play through it first and then I'll talk about it. Okay, so you saw, hopefully, the crossing over. The piece in the book above this, on the same page in the book, Rainbow Jumps, is a preparation for this crossing over thing. So you start with your hands in this position, both in a C major position. So your right thumb is on middle C. Your left pinky is on the C an octave below. And they both have to move from that position, but they come back to it. So when the left hand crosses over the right is going to stay still, and the left is going to cross over to the C above the right and play two of those, and then move straight back. The suggested fingering is third finger for that. You can use another finger if you like. Finger 2 works quite well. The reason in cases like this that we often use the third is, if you think about it, it makes sense because the third is the longest finger. So if you've got to travel, it can get there. If you have your hand at the right sort of angle, it can get there before any of the other fingers. Now, a word about when you have to make jumps like that in the hand. Don't watch your hand moving. I do suggest you have a look down, but don't look at your hand. Look at the note it's aiming for. So in this case, I'm already looking at that note, and then it's easy to get my hand there. If I'm looking here and then sort of watching that, that doesn't work. When the right hand crosses the left, it's a bigger jump because it's got to go to the C below the right. So it's a full octave below the lowest note of the right hand. So it's a bigger jump. Same thing applies though. Get your eyes to the note before your finger needs to be there. Then it's not so bad. Okay, so our starting position is this. Now at the beginning, the left hand plays a nice 3-note chord. Hopefully, by the time you're learning this piece, you're quite good at playing 3-note chords like that. If not, do some practice, because it's a very common thing in piano music to play that sort of chord. So it's 3 notes at once, in this case G, E and C, and I'm using fingers 1, 3 and 5. Now it takes a bit of practice to get them all sounding strongly together, because at first you may find that sort of thing happens. The trick is to have your fingers at different angles, so you can't really see here, but my thumb obviously is resting on its side. The pinky is not very curved. The third finger, being the longest, is very curved, and I'm holding my other 2 fingers out of the way. And then I simply push my whole hand down. So it's not so much a case of knowing which fingers to put down, it's a case of knowing which fingers to hold away from the piano, from the keys, and then putting your hand down like that. So practice that on its own. Then, if we go very slowly at the beginning, that chord will always come with the right hand C. So it's going to be that. So let's play the beginning much more slowly than I played it at the start. You will have to practice it slowly at first. So 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... So notice that my left hand moved across as I was playing those right hand quavers. I'll do that again. So that's the first thing to practice. The next 2 bars are the same rhythm, but it's actually easier because the left hand doesn't cross over. It stays where it is, and instead of playing those, it stays where it is and plays G's with the thumb. So it's... Now, just a word about these crotchets. So we've got quavers, which I suggest you play legato. The crotchets, make them a bit detached, and in particular, don't hold the left hand chords longer than the beat. Make sure the left hand comes off on that second beat. Like that, not... That's wrong for 2 reasons. One, it's not what the composer wrote, but more importantly, it makes it sound a bit sort of flabby. We lose the crispness of the music. So make sure the left hand notes aren't sounding longer than they're meant to. Okay, so those first couple of phrases again. Good. Now, the next part is the part that, as I say, I think is harder. I'm stopping there for a moment. So in the right hand, we have this pattern. So you see, in part of that, there's a sort of a pattern that goes up a step of the scale each time. That, then that. Okay. Make sure you can play this, first of all, the right hand only, with correct timing, and start from the last 2 notes of the previous line. So. Okay. Now the left hand on its own is very simple because it goes... The tricky thing is putting them together. It's not very hard, but I know from experience that people can struggle with it at first. So first of all, make sure you've learnt that separately and you've mastered that separately. Then it's simply a case of adding the left-hand notes. Notice that they're written as crotchets, but this time they actually have staccato dots as well. So in effect, that really makes them into quavers. So the one at the beginning of the line, for instance, it comes with the right-hand C. I would not make it longer than a quaver. In other words, you take your hand off already when your right hand plays the D. I mean, without the staccato dot, it might be. But with the staccato dot, as I say, it comes to the same thing really as a quaver. So, well, maybe not quite as short as that. So practice, focus on stopping the note, taking your finger off as your right hand hits the next note. At that point, point, although the left hand's marked staccato, the right isn't, you could in effect make them both, bring them off both about the same time. Okay, that will take a little bit of practice. If you get confused about this is the other thing, you may get confused about C and G and which is which. So the C is your pinky, the G is your thumb. So just to go through that again. Then the left hand goes this, easy, and the right hand crosses over. So as I say, the crossing over parts I don't think are so hard. I'm going to play the whole thing now at that slow speed. And just a reminder, with the crossing over, pay just as much attention to getting your hand back to its place as to getting there. So when the left hand crosses over, that has to be quite quick, but then it immediately has to go back to its starting place. Yeah, so I'll just play it once more at a reasonably fast speed. And there we are. I hope that was helpful. That's the end of this video.